This is Paul the patient, and this is his wife, Pauline the patient. I say, Mr. Patient, that's a smashing-looking wife you've got there. I wouldn't mind giving her one. But I'm afraid I digress. In the old days, Paul and Pauline used to work very hard, and then they used to get old and sick, but they never bothered the Consortium or the Sir John Empire because they didn't like to make a fuss. But anyway, they couldn't afford the fees. So they used to fall down dead, and that was that. Then somebody had the bright idea that healthcare ought to be free. At about the same time, Paul and Pauline stopped having to work so hard and started filling their houses with luxury goods. And they sat at home getting fat and unhealthy, in spite of which they lived to an enormous old age. So then they kept feeling very poorly and saying, "Wah, I've got a sore throat," or "Wah, my hip needs replacing," or "Wah, I've got weight-induced diabetes," or "Wah, I've gone demented." And they kept running off to the Consortium or the Sir John Empire and saying, "Wah, somebody make me better." Now, this was very expensive. So one day, along came Peter the Premier, and he said, "I say, chaps, you can't keep asking for medical help like this. We can't afford it." But they said, "Wah, we want someone to make us better." So Peter the Premier said, "Well, would you like to pay more taxes to cover the cost?" But Paul and Pauline said, "Piss off, Premier, we don't want to pay more taxes. We want to use our money to buy luxury goods, not to pay for boring old healthcare." And Peter the Premier said, "Well done, that's the right answer. The more luxury goods you buy, the stronger the economy gets." Then Paul and Pauline said, "But wait a minute, Peter the Premier, if our economy is so strong, how come there isn't enough money for healthcare?" And Peter the Premier said, "Aha! That's because all the money goes to Bertie the banker, and he took it all to the racecourse one day and put it on a dead cert, and the dead cert came in last. So now all the money's gone, and we've all got to do without. Well, I haven't got to do without, and Bertie the banker hasn't got to do without either, but you've got to do without." Then Paul and Pauline said, "But wait a minute, Peter the Premier, if it's all Bertie the banker's fault, why isn't he paying for it? And why don't you kick him up the arse?" And Peter the Premier said, "Well, there are 3 reasons for that. The first reason is, even though Bertie the banker cocks up on this occasion, usually he makes lots of money for our economy and we can't afford to be without him. At least that's what he always says, and I believe him. The second reason is, he's really a jolly nice chap. He's in the same lodge of the water buffaloes as I am, and his children go to the same private school as my children. Whereas you, Paul and Pauline, are terribly common, and I don't really like you very much. And the third reason is, I can't kick him up the arse or make him pay, because actually I'm not his boss, he's mine. I don't tell him what to do, he tells me. And he tells me that we can't afford to keep subsidising the Consortium or the Sir John Empire, or lots of lazy poorly people. So all this ill health has got to stop." But Paul and Pauline weren't really listening, because something good had just come on the telly. So they still kept marching off to the Consortium or the Sir John Empire and saying, "Wah, we're poorly. We want someone to make us better." And even though Peter the Premier told the Consortium and the Sir John Empire to just send them back home and tell them not to be so naughty, the Consortium and the Sir John Empire wouldn't do it. They just kept seeing Paul and Pauline more and more often, and then asking for more and more money for the extra work. So then, a boffin at the Department of Health had a jolly brainy idea. He said to Peter the Premier, "I say, Peter, I've thought of an absolutely wizard wheeze. You know how the Consortium and the Sir John Empire really hate each other? Well, let's make them have a great big fight. We can tell them both that the health service is losing so much money that we'll have to take away all their nice things. And we can tell each of them that it's all the other one's fault. Pretty soon they'll start smashing each other to bits. Then Paul and Pauline won't have anywhere to go. They can boo-hoo all they like, and it won't get them anywhere. Even better, we can make a bit of money by selling what's left over to the French. They're always trying to get their hands on our stuff, and they've got frightfully good cuisine, you know."
Bien sûr.
And that was how the problem of ill health was solved forever.